Hey guys, I hope you're keeping well. Thanks a lot for joining in on this live stream. I really do appreciate it. So we're in 2025 and new year, new world. It's been 5 years since the incident and 4 to 5 years. And here we are, still alive and kicking. It's just so crazy watching the news lately, and it's insane how every single day, every single week, there's just something new dominating and taking over the news cycle, taking over people's minds. Because obviously, all the news that we see is what the news that everyone sees, and it depicts what they think about, depicts what it is that they happen to talk about. And lately I've been checking out what's been happening with Trump and Elon Musk, and look, some of the things I've enjoyed that they've been doing, but some of the things just it really doesn't seem to make sense or is not as appealing or as glamorous as people may think. Like when Trump says shut down the borders because of Mexican cartels, I completely and totally understand that. I think the narcotics world has caused a lot of damage towards our world and definitely towards America. And if they're interrupting gang related activities of extremely violent gangs, um, that are extremely evil when it comes down to it because of the evil murderous stuff that they do, then yeah, it's good. Like if you can wage a war on criminals and huge criminal gang syndicates that are so big that you wonder which governments are involved within. Yeah, that makes sense. Shutting down the border, regulating people. I personally subscribe to a borderless world, but unfortunately, that's quite frankly not the reality we happen to live in. We live in a reality where there's all these governments, there's so much bureaucracy, and there's so much potential risk towards actually doing that. You know, but ultimately we should live in a less divided world. But that's not the case. We live in a boarded up world, and I guess some of the arguments happen to actually make sense. Especially if it's like defending huge cartels who are pretty evil guys. I don't know if you've seen what cartels do to people, but they're pretty damn evil. And they work with these governments most of the time. Like most drug operations work with people in government, whether it's South Africa, whether it's America. They're just so big that, yeah, there's corruption at all levels of life, even in first world countries. So, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's just the only issue is like, can you promote doing that without inciting racism? Because what doing that has actually ultimately done is it's making people a lot more racist. And I've seen it, in videos and stuff online where people are just telling people to get back to Mexico and whatever. And it's like, can you secure your border and secure your country's interests without inciting so much division and racism? Because that's what it's doing. It's, whether you agree with it or not, it is inciting racism. That's what it's doing. And so, I mean, a lot of the policies of Trump are enjoyable, but some of them and some of the stuff that he does, it really makes you scratch your head and wonder how corrupt he is and how these people are. And I know some people are going to be avid Trump supporters, and I understand that. I'm not trying to dissuade you from your interests, but I just want to point some things out. Like recently this week, he basically was sitting next to Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and ultimately saying that Gaza is such a dump. It's a war zone. It's full of rubble. Who would want to live there? So we can just relocate people, move them into other countries, and then we'll turn Gaza into the next Riviera. And he's saying this while he's sitting next to the guy that was responsible for bombing the shit out of Gaza. I don't want to use the G word, but it makes no sense, guys. Make it make sense. Like this guy's telling us about how Gaza is so unlivable, but he's sitting next to the guy who made Gaza unlivable. And the US funds it, funds billions of dollars to Israel. And I like Jewish people. I don't have a problem with them, but I think the problem was with Zionism, the political aspect of Israel, and they've caused a lot of devastation, a lot of harm, a lot of division, a lot of racism. And I'm referring to the government, not the Jewish people. I don't have a problem with Jewish people at all. But I have a problem with their political leadership and stuff that they're getting away with. And now Trump coming along, clearly supporting that sort of ideology and ultimately wanting to, they've destroyed Gaza, they've blown it to bits. And then he sits there next to the guy. It makes no sense. I don't want to speak about it for too long. I just want to make it known I'm not anti-Semitic in any way. I understand that the Torah/Old Testament comes from the Jewish people. I just think that when it comes to war, that's the only issue and problem I have with Israel, to be totally honest with you. And any country for that matter of fact. It's not particularly just with Israel. It's any country that is willing to engage with into warfare. So, Trump, dude, it's like you're so insensitive, bro. Like these people have been bombed out of their land and you want to relocate them to build the next Riviera, dude. It's like, what are you saying, bro? What are you actually saying, dude? And that's all I want to say on it, to be honest with you, because if you speak out about stuff like this, you can get into a lot of trouble, especially if you're in business. You can face a lot of roadblocks and troubles ahead if you speak out about the state of Israel. So that's all I have to say. I have to say simply stop bombing people, stop killing people, make peace, and displacing people and expanding your borders and using someone like Trump to spin a new story on this. It's kind of sickening. I really don't want to speak about it for much longer, to be honest with you. It's really sickening. So, I'm on two sides with Trump. It's like on the one side, he doesn't give a shit about people, to be totally honest with you. He doesn't give a fuck about human life. I'm going to be so totally honest with you. But a lot of his policies seem to help people. But if you think he's a good guy, well, you got to look at some of the other shit he says and does, guys. I mean, let's just relocate people out of Gaza and then turn it into the next Riviera. It's like, dude, can you be a little bit more sensitive, bro? Like, there's basically been genocide committed there. There's people, children, women, kids that have lost their lives then. So that's really all I have to say. The title of this video is Do Not Let a Corrupt World Corrupt You. I'm sorry to have started it off so political. To be honest with you, I hate politics. I want nothing to do with politics. I don't even want to be speaking about politics, but somehow here I am speaking about politics, but I really want to stay away from politics as much as possible, and I want to really remain as apolitical as possible. But that's simply all I've had to say. But it leads on to another point. Is like this world is pretty corrupt. Even if you don't happen to see the corruption and it's not in your face, like if you dig far enough, you will find corruption. And we see corruption in all aspects of life. Like recently at the Grammys, Kanye West and his new wife, Bianca, he basically dropped her coat and she was full-blown naked in front of a kid to see, which is strange that she wasn't arrested since that's considered as indecent exposure towards a minor. And really strange that these artists who promote Jesus Christ and Christian values are ultimately with their wives stark naked on a red carpet. Promoting what exactly? I don't know. Degeneracy, filth, a lack of inhibitions. It's just, you try not to be political, but ultimately everything is politicized at the end of the day, whether it's music, whether it's media, whether it's celebrities, whether it's award shows. In one way or another, everything is politicized. And it's kind of sickening that we happen to live in a world like that. It's like everyone's trying to make some sort of statement, and it usually ends up being a political, ideological statement. And I think it's all for money. It's all for agendas and special interests, to be honest with you. was one thing I've noticed about Hollywood is like they promote certain ideas at the same time, certain themes at the same time, certain thematic guideline that instructs what it is that their artists and employees, being the entertainment world, ultimately promote on a month-to-month and year-to-year basis. And ultimately, if anything we've seen is degeneracy being promoted. Like we have something like OnlyFans. I mean, if you know what OnlyFans is basically like Patreon, like my Patreon, but for people to sell nude contents of themselves, people's daughters, people's wives, people's girlfriends, mothers and aunts. And it's ultimately normalizing pornography in a really big way and created extreme accessibility towards pornographic materials. And it's strange because we go ahead and want to ban stuff like, oh, wow, my battery's low. I don't know why my battery's low. That's not good. My computer can shut down at any moment in time. My battery shouldn't be low at all. I don't know why it's telling. I'm back online. Sorry about that, guys. Just got a message from Secretary saying, "What's up, brother? I'm back in Ohio." Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to try to re-edit this in the stream. For some reason, my computer just shut off. But yeah, I think it's only been a couple minutes into the stream. Really sorry about that. Fortunately enough, I was actually able to restore the stream as soon as possible. But to not inconvenience at a later stage, I'm gonna have to try edit it some way. Yeah, so ultimately what I was saying is that this world's pretty corrupt, and it can be pretty easy to become corruptive because of the nature of this world. For instance, life is so stressful, life is so worrying. We live in a scarcity world and scarcity mindset that ultimately what ends up happening is people only care about themselves, their own life, which I can't blame them for. Sometimes life becomes so hard for people that all they can do is focus on themselves and others. But this world can create bitter, sour people that ultimately find no hope and meaning within their lives and within life in general. And I'm not basically criticizing those people, but I'm saying that is something that does happen. That is something that does take place. This world can corrupt you pretty easily in many ways. It can corrupt your mind, corrupt your way of thinking. Ultimately, we should have happy, healthy, caring people who are compassionate and kind and empathetic towards other people. But the world in its current state doesn't really promote that. It seems to actually get in the way of that and keep people in a survivalist state of mind. By the way, Secretariat, thanks a lot for tuning in, man. I hope you're keeping well. Very good to hear from you. I don't know if you're my one and only viewer right now, but if you are, thanks a lot, man. Good to see you. So I'm just going to turn this off. So yeah, basically, what can I say, guys? The world is just a dark and scary place at times. And people get corrupted for all sorts of reasons. Greed is usually the number one cause of causing someone to become corrupted in their own mind. But people become corrupted in innumerable amounts of ways, So many ways to become corrupted, internally, externally, in terms of your activities and etc., so forth and so on. And I guess what you want to do is you want to not let all of that stuff affect or influence you in any way. You want to be the best, most happy, positive, kind, and loving version of yourself. That's the version of you that presents the most amount of value towards your own life and other people's lives. And do not let a corrupt world corrupt you. I'm trying to figure out how to basically explain this because it's not only money that corrupts people, although money is ultimately the biggest driving force that corrupts people. It's all sorts of reasons. People just become corrupt in their own ways, in their own nature. They become more callous, more uncaring, more reckless, and less sensitive towards taking time to think about their actions and how their actions, words, and thoughts may affect other people. And some people don't even have any regard towards this at all. They don't take any regard towards how their actions, words, or whatever may be affecting somebody else. Some people have really selfish interests that lead to really selfish actions that can really hurt and damage the people around them. But as corrupt as the world is, it's very easy to grow older and to lose your spark and to lose your happiness and to start developing a very sour, horrible, depressive perspective of the world that ultimately corrupts your own integrity and your own character and leads you towards caring less. And because you care less, you're more prone to doing stuff selfishly for your own interests without any consideration towards other people. And so this corruption's everywhere, and it extends from the top all the way down, from the rich to the poor, from the poor to the rich. And it's sold and marketed to us. It's promoted to us. There's programs of corruption that are used to teach us how to become more corrupt within ourselves. You know, like I was just checking Elon Musk shutting down all of those agencies and how many agencies were teaching pushing such far right ideological regimes and concepts around the world, like the whole transsexual thing, teaching people pronouns, the gay people and this and that. And it's like, guys, like there's people starving and there's people suffering and there's war-torn countries. Like before you start funding these ideological conquests, can't you just, spend your money and time on places that actually matter and actually improve people's lives for the better? And it just really goes to show this level of ideological subversion that takes place with all these government-funded activities that ultimately spread such useless and ridiculous ideology that ultimately weakens mankind in many ways. It weakens the nuclear family, it weakens a whole lot of ideas and constructs and creates more division amongst all these ideas. Look, I don't have a problem with trans people. I don't have a problem with some fucking person deciding they want to dress up as opposite sex and want to be identified as opposite sex. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with homosexuality. But don't spend people's tax money on teaching that shit to people around the world. Like, just because we may not have a problem with it, it doesn't mean that you must go ahead and basically make that the core conversation of people's political ideological stances and ultimately teach it around the world through these campaigns, because that's what these countries do. They subvert people through the mind. They subvert people through ideological imperialism, where they teach people, how to think a certain way or what to be focused on, And to be honest with you, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. You're spending people's tax money on teaching crap like that to third world countries, and you're teaching people and then you're spending people's tax money on funding wars around the world. It's pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, that's what happens. That's what takes place in the world. So if you just try, it's not that the world's just inherently or innately corrupt. It's corruption is funded in many ways, shapes, and forms. Whether it's through ideology, whether it's through education, whether it's through political positions, whether it's through inspired division of people through their beliefs. Corruption is funded. People spend money on corruption. People don't only make money from corruption, people spend money on corruption. Nick Snell, very nice to see you. Thank you very much for dropping by and saying hello. Hope you're keeping well. So corruption is something that's in this day and age is funded, whether it's through propaganda. And it's just been so ridiculous to see the past couple of years in the way in which America has shaped and formed the world with this fucking transsexual bullshit. Like, as I said, I don't have a problem with the transsexual human being. They're still a human being. They're still a man or a woman. But when the government's getting involved, when the government's funding these these educational expenses of forcing these ideologies into the minds of third world countries around the world, you got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Why the fuck are you doing that? Why are you spending millions of dollars teaching this shit to people? Like, people are fucking starving. They don't have water. They don't have food. They don't have shelter. They don't have education. But no, we need to go back to gender constructs because apparently we haven't figured or sorted that out. And apparently we need to educate poor, impoverished countries where people are dying of starvation on the fact that gender is fluid. It's like, what the fuck, guys? Okay, so it's, and then creating all this division through that and more hatred and stuff. It's just like, oh, fuck. And it's like, when you look at these governments, it's like, why are you doing that? Why are you spending? Because I'll tell you why they're doing it. They have political agendas. If they can't create a physical, kinetic war with you, then they're going to create an asymmetrical war within your mind, asymmetrical warfare. And they're going to attack your mind. They're going to attack your ideologies. They're going to attack your community. And then they're going to attack you in so many ways that you as a normal person would never even have thought of. We wouldn't even know the ways they're attacking us if it wasn't for the internet. It's just the media, the news, the news. And the news tells us what to think, what to believe, what to focus on. And just giving more people screen time than others. It's so ridiculous. We honestly live in a circus called Earth, and it's a political media landscape circus. It's a fucking circus. It's a joke. And it's almost like these people are just toying with our minds, joking with us. But yeah, corruption exists in so many different ways, so many different shapes, so many different forms. Whether it is through greed, whether it is through political propaganda of ideas and ideology, whether it is through normalization of things that are not so culturally acceptable, like as I've just explained to you, OnlyFans, a website, has normalized pornography for the everyday user to generate their own content and to make money off of it. Like, don't you think that's a problem if our capitalist business scape, our landscape, is basically leading people towards having to sell their integrity for money? Don't you think that's a bit of a problem? If money and the ability to earn money is so inaccessible that companies like this end up earning so much money because of people's need to create money, and it's that corruption. People can be corrupted in many ways, shapes, and forms, whether it is selling yourself online, whether it is fucking turning into a total dirtbag, asshole, superficial person who just bullies and teases people, whether it is through drugs and alcohol, whether it is through division, whether it is through racism. As I've explained to you, corruption doesn't only make money, it spends money. Corruption spends money on creating more corruption. And that's the world we live in, okay? These people can destroy your values, destroy your mind, destroy your sense of self, destroy your sense of family, destroy your sense of community and interconnectedness. And then they fucking basically are committing an identity warfare on you and everyone else around you. They're modifying and augmenting your identity by exposing what information and news stories and communication-based agendas you're exposed to. They're editing and augmenting your mind every single fucking day. You open up one of these products, you open one of these platforms, you open up one of these apps, you're just seeing the byproduct of the people at the top spending shitloads of money to tell you what to believe in, to tell you what to think about, to tell you what to value, to tell you what to talk about. It's kind of shit, actually, if everyone's conversation has to circulate around the media like mine is currently right now. I mean, that's the reality. Next now says, when money has no value and the countries have no more borders, they will not have power anymore. And that is so beautiful. That is the ultimate utopia any earthling should strive for. But really, with all this bureaucracy, with all this division, with all this power, It's like, what the fuck, guys? Like, your presidents, your leaders, you only live like 70 to 100 years if you're lucky. And in the short space of time, you're just whoring yourself out for political ideology in order to get ahead in life. You're ready to sell war. You're ready to fund war. You're ready to normalize and desensitize war. For what? For you to die one fucking day and for some other person in this government bureaucracy to grab the stick and carry on the race? The race towards what? Gaining power? If that's what everyone's doing, they're just running towards power. They don't even know why they want power. It just makes them feel good. They just want tons and tons of power. So they get mixed up in these bureaucratic systems that offer power, but they offer it towards those that are willing to play ball and comply towards this bullshit system that this world has been entertaining for far too long. The system's ridiculous. Governments own you. Governments own their fucking citizens. You're not free. I had this conversation with some billionaire the other day, and I told this fucking idiot that you're not, about common law and shit. And I told the fucking moron that you're not free. You think you're free, you're not free. You're not free at all. You're a government subject, you're a government slave. You do not have freedom. You have the illusion of freedom. So, don't come here and claim to be intelligent and explain to me, what to be free means, what freedom means, and think that you're free. You're not free, I don't think people should spend their whole life focusing on some things that can or cannot change, focusing on the reality of freedom. Some people just sort of have to bite the bullet and accept the system that we're intertwined and trapped in, because we're trapped in it since birth. And it's pretty fucking unlawful, and it's pretty corrupt. And Nick's now saying, if you are free, you can't use the highways anymore. You have no rights to use materials anymore. That is all done by taxpayers' money. No, that's not necessarily true. They're public roads, they're public highways. The taxpayers 40 years ago, 80 years, 100 years, they're all dead. In terms of common law, those are public roads. They're not privately owned roads. And technically, you should be able to drive without a license plate, without a license. But nobody's educated on that aspect of law versus legal frameworks. I call it the quasi-legal or visible legal framework that we're all sort of trapped in. But yeah, I hear you with the taxpayers thing, but there are ways around that. But yeah, I mean, really, our sweat equity is basically indefinitely owed towards people, and you have to pay it no matter what. And if you don't, they're going to put you in jail. That's not freedom, man. That's fucking extortion, to be quite frankly honest with you. That is the literal definition of extortion. And every single person's being extorted by their government in one way or another. It's not even their government. It's an international financial political system that works hand in hand with each other and basically ensures this neo-Roman era of control still happens smoothly without any interruptions, without anyone actually vying for true, real freedom. And that's what it is, guys. It's Rome. It's the Roman Empire 3.50. It's the emperors and the elitists versus the common people, and their policies having to squeeze out our sweat equity from us. Secretary is saying, peace be with you all. So, thanks, Secretary. I appreciate that. So, yeah, guys, it's pretty ridiculous. I hate to think about it because it irks me that it's become so difficult to fight, to defend, to change. I think that we should idealistically and ultimately live in a world where people have the choice to opt into these things, these social contracts. These social contracts should just not be tacitly assumed and enforced. People should, at any given point in time, have the ability to choose what it is they want to and do not want to be a part of. And until people have that choice, people will never be free. They will be continually extorted under the guise of government legal frameworks. Hate to get too complicated or technical, but that's ultimately the truth. And if anyone, let's say, developed enough power in this world and influence within this world and started promoting these ideas that I'm speaking to you about, they would become an incredible threat towards these government systems. Now all of a sudden you're telling people, oh, well, you can actually be free. You can actually choose not to opt into being forced to do what this government tells you to do. How many trees you can have, how many animals you can have, what you can build, what you can't, how you can make money, where you should spend your money. It's pretty ridiculous. But hey, that's the world we live in. So you kind of can't spend too much time complaining about it, to be honest with you, because it will just drive you insane. But let's say someone was powerful enough, had enough influence in order to challenge these status quos with new ideas of freedom. They would ultimately become, even though they're lawfully operating, they would ultimately be viewed as a terrorist, a threat towards these government financial political systems. They would simply be viewed as a threat, you know? They would simply be viewed as a threat. Let's try to do something here. So, yeah. And as I said, I don't like to get too political, but like what I was trying to explain to you is that you lawfully have the right to refuse to pay tax. You lawfully have the right to not have a system with an admiralty legal frameworks, be able to administer yourself, administer your children, administer your property. But if anyone developed enough power and started pushing for these ideas and started educating people and developed huge teams in order to implement this option for actual true freedom, they would immediately be considered as a threat. And these government and capitalistic powers would do everything in their power to subvert you in any way, shape, or form. If they don't like you, they will find a way to screw you. They'll find a way to block you. They'll find a way to deter you because that's how things work. They don't want you to mess up their fucking Roman Empire. If you start messing up their Roman Empire, you're a revolutionist. You are not someone that they're really going to like. And the sad part about all this is that what I'm discussing here today, you won't see people discussing who have this influence. You won't see them talking about it, and you won't see people spreading these ideas. These are ideas that need to be spread for the civilization to actually proceed into an advanced way in terms of actually offering people the option to be truly free. If the government forces you to comply with all of their bullshit and doesn't educate you on the fact that you don't have to be a citizen, you don't have to be a government subject, you can sit outside of their framework within law, as long as you don't injure, hurt, or steal or harm anyone, people need that option to be free. And the days of freeness are over. Everything is just getting digitized. Control systems are going to become more complex and more advanced as time progresses. Technology is just going to aid these people's ability to control us, and not only control us, but manipulate us even more than they already are right now. People are being manipulated in ways they don't even understand, ways they're not even aware of. People are being manipulated in ways they don't fucking understand. I'm being manipulated in ways I don't even understand right now. I don't have all the information of all this, these platforms and these ways in which it is that I'm accessing information, and it's not only you. Like if you shut yourself down from the world, the media, that doesn't mean the people around you are being shut down from it. That's still going to influence their thoughts, still going to influence their conversations. It's still going to affect their choices and decisions, and it's still going to contribute to the variable matrix and the variable outcomes that are ultimately produced here on Earth. And I hate to get too damn complicated with this stuff, but the thing is that because I sometimes like the idea of just living in simplicity, having a simple mind and living a simple life. But being a curious-minded individual and the world being as complex and intricate as it is, you can't help but pay attention to some of the stuff, especially when people are paid money to keep you stupid, and they're paid money to influence and manipulate you in ways that you shall not become aware of. They paid money in order to introduce new ideas, new ideologies, new political stances, and to influence and affect not only you, but the people around you. So even if you find a way to opt out of this stuff, it doesn't mean that the people around you are going to opt out of it, because they have the choice to keep following this crap and talking about it and ultimately influence us with this sort of stuff anyway. So, there are think tanks, there are the Bilderberg groups, and the this and the that, the IMF, etc. And they spend a lot of money on trying to figure out how to control us, or trying to figure out how to, within these control systems, how to influence, how to guide the evolution and the trajectory of Earth's civilization and evolution. These are people who are hungry, that they're so short-sighted, the fact that they cannot overlook the one day, pretty soon, they're going to die. And all this power they've been for their, within regards to their own personal capacity, within their own power-hungry, insatiable lust to be able to be the one to control the way in which it is the world works and the direction it heads in. So ridiculous. People are just going to die one day. But do as much as possible in order to exercise as much power as exercise and gain as much as possible. Got a message here from Todd Rushton. Very good to see you, Todd. Hope you're keeping well there in Canada. Hello, Jesse. Long time no here. It's Todd Rushton from Canada. How have you been doing? I've been doing pretty well, Todd. Just focusing on programming and application of mine, and getting some support on Patreon, which has been helping me a lot. I'm earning not too much money, but I'm earning just enough money to get by each month to allow me to keep working on this dream project of mine, so that one day I can help the world. One day soon, actually, because I expect to finish this app hopefully by the end of this year. But as a solo developer, it just takes a lot of time. Currently, right now, I'm working on. Let me show you. Share screen. I'm working on a video uploading section screen, which is kind of annoying me right now because I get stuck on some really annoying stuff. Sometimes simple stuff. I was about to say simplicated stuff. Losing my speech here. But sometimes really simple stuff in coding that should be simple takes you really long to do, and sometimes complicated stuff takes you really quick to do. Sometimes you get stuck, so it's kind of hard to assess the time something like this. But right now, what I've been working on, it's just loading now. I don't know why it's taking long, on a video uploading section. So I've been working on. I don't know why that's not working that well either. It's just so technical sometimes to get things to work properly. This is a video trimming section that allows you to trim certain section of the video before you upload it. That was quite a while to work on because I had to get this app to extract images and intervals across the video. And basically right now, as you can see, there's a 1 minute limit. That's the maximum amount of video time people will be able to upload. But I just have a problem here because it shouldn't be doing that. It should be limited to me not being able to pull that past a minute. But unfortunately, I still need to code that. And this simple little section's been taking me a little too long. I've been stuck in the section for like 2 months. And I'm still not done because sometimes certain videos crashes. So this is what I do when you're not hearing from me. I'm just coding every day and trying not to procrastinate, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's where I'm at. How are you doing, Todd? Are you keeping well? Is everything okay? Let's just remove that and go back to our visuals. Give me 1 second, guys. I've been through quite a lot of challenges in the last year, but it seems as though things are getting better. My mind's getting better. I'm becoming more optimistic. I was stuck in certain states of depression and paranoia, to be so totally honest with you. And I've just had to keep working in order to feel a lot more optimistic about my life and the trajectory that's all while staying aware of what's happening in the world because you can't help but do it, having exposure to social media and so forth and so on. Although a lot of the social media I find to be so damn crap and toxic. Um, but here and there you find some good stuff, that I try to share on my Patreon, some interesting perspectives, whether I'm sharing YouTube videos, my own YouTube videos. Oh yeah, and by the way, anyone that wants to subscribe to my Patreon, please look in the link below. You can head on over there to my Patreon. And basically, I share stuff and I share my own videos. It's just a really simple way for people to support me. And if it wasn't for Patreon, I wouldn't be able to sit at home and program this application every day. So I've been supporting me on Patreon. Thank you very much, because once I start actually turning this into a profit, I'm going to start rewarding people and paying them back for their support. So I really do appreciate it. I do thank you for that, and I do have to actually take time to tell people about this as well. It's obviously important. It keeps me going, and without it, I wouldn't have any steam or any gas to keep moving. But anyway, to get back to the conversation, yeah. Don't let the world corrupt you. Don't let being in a survival state of mind corrupt you. Don't let Nick Snell, thank you very much. I'm guessing you're one of my patrons. I really do appreciate that. And it's really cool to be able to show you guys what I'm actually working on, because it's literally funded by you guys. Like, I'm not earning a lot of money, but I'm earning enough to sit at home every month and have food and code and have internet. So Russian says government means control, metanoia means mind. The government's the mind controllers. Absolutely. And that comes down to, it's all about control. But what I was speaking about is, like, these people who are in these bureaucratic government systems, it's just like, dude, you're gonna live like fucking 100 years if you're lucky. Like, you're screwing over the rest of the people and the future generations by just trying to gain more power and control over a system that you'll never ultimately have power and control of in the future, because you will die and you will perish, and it's just going to get passed on to the next power hungry person that's next in line. And that's just how things happen to take place. And it's a really shitty system that attracts really power hungry people that are really super ready to compromise their values for the sake of all sorts of personal goals and aspirations they may have. And you got shitty people at the top leading shitty people at the bottom, and it's toxic people leading toxic people and creating and fueling and inspiring more toxic people in a world where people don't give a shit about anything, which is understandable to some degree, as I said before, because they're surviving. They need to survive. They need to make money. They need to feed themselves. They need to feed their families. Sometimes life just becomes too stressful for people. Bigger picture, for them to be concerned about people around them, be concerned about future generations, the environment, animals. Survival does that to you. Survival can really bring out the worst in us. And we do live in a survivalist earth. We do have human bodies that require food and water to stay alive. I was thinking about how crazy that is. It's like us and every single animal on this planet, this earth, we're required to eat and drink to sustain ourselves, to keep living. Life is not a free ride. You need calories, you need consumption, you need nutrients, and you need to constantly keep consuming it. You go without food, you starve. You go without water, and you die. But these food and water, the world, they should be free. These billionaires earn so much freaking money, and these guys can't even figure out how to solve these problems. Enough money, enough resources, enough power, enough influence to solve these problems. But no, that's not the problems they're solving. They're just solving the problem of gaining more power for themselves. I had a good childhood. I don't think these people at the top are more fabricated, shaped in some way. So they think they're doing the right thing while only they're doing someone else's agenda. Look, some of them think doing the right thing, but to be honest with you, based on how webbed the system is, it's like in order to get somewhere, you need to propagate and fuel someone's agenda. Like people need to give you these positions of power. And in order to gain those positions of power, you need to scratch someone's back usually. So it just fuels corruption, man. I mean, I don't think they had a good childhood, yeah, and I can totally agree with you, but some of them probably did have a good childhood. I mean, look at Trump, for instance. The guy was basically born a fucking millionaire. And he has no regard for Palestinians whatsoever. I can tell you that right now. No matter how much he tells you he doesn't give a single fucking shit at all. I can guarantee you that right now. A lot of people who are Trump supporters, may want to argue with that, but I mean, guys, come on. This guy's exposing himself. He's exposing his care and sensitivity towards human life. He's exposed like crazy sitting next to Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's kind of sickening. I don't want to fucking talk about it. I mean, excuse my language. I don't want to talk about it because it's a little bit too sickening. But yeah, these guys sell you an image. They sell you a vision and they sell you a sense of purity. But most of the time, give them enough time and they'll prove you wrong for trusting them. They'll prove you wrong for putting them on a pedestal. You just give these people enough time and then they'll show you who they really are, if you're lucky enough. So we live in a world that breeds deception. It's the world that is created by deception. And there's deception, guys, on government levels. I can guarantee that right now. There's deception, there's secrecy, and there's lies. And there's not only lies in government, there's lies in all aspects of life. We're willing to lie at the cost of damaging someone else's life in order to basically fuel and propagate their own life, even if it can cost that person their whole life. And people will sell out. They'll sell out, like they'll sell out for money. Look at people who join these cartels. I mean, they're joining the cartel because of greed of being able to earn money, but they're not thinking about the cost of the human life these cartels incur, whether it be through drugs, whether it be through murdering people and intimidating whole entire countries, towns, and regions, and exterminating anyone that stands against them, that stands for the betterment and health and prosperity of their own community. People sell out all the time, whether it is in the criminal world, whether it is in the governmental world. People sell out all the time. And it's just money that can cause people to do this, So I don't want to be too overly negative, but for one reason or another, I just decided, that's all the bad stuff that I've spoken about. But the whole point of this video and what it is I'm discussing is don't let all of this stuff corrupt you. And don't let it occupy your mind too much as well. It's good to be aware of it, but it's good also to not let it get the better of you, not let it consume you. It's just good to be aware of it and I guess shift your focus onto things that are a lot more happy and a lot more meaningful and bright and contributing of value towards your life, So my whole thing is like, look, there may be corrupt people around you. There may be corrupt media. There may be corrupt politics. There may be corrupt government officials and this and that. There may be the desensitization of certain things that are corrupt and bad and unhealthy for society being introduced into society. There may be the need to survive, the need to stay alive that can corrupt people, And so what I'm ultimately saying is don't let that get the better of you. Don't let that bring you down. Don't let that cause you or allow you to compromise your morals, to compromise or drop your virtues. I made a status the other day. I was contemplating something, and I said ultimately the unconventional cost of the unconventional convenience, but sorry, wait, let me just try to say it again. The unfortunate convenience of abandoning virtue. To be virtuous, to be a person of high ethical and morals and integrity and virtue, you have to work on that. You have to maintain and keep those morals, maintain and keep that integrity. It's a lot more convenient to not be virtuous. It's a lot more convenient to not be of a person of great integrity. And so people will choose convenience over idealistic virtues, over idealistic morals and values. It's just convenient not to have values. It's convenient not to have virtues. So the unfortunate convenience of abandoning virtue. It's convenient to abandon virtue, and virtue is a hard thing to describe because it can apply to so many aspects of life. But let's say somebody who's just anti-corruption, anti-nonsense, anti-bullshit, anti-violence, anti-war, because war is a form of corruption, whether you like it or not. And someone who has high enough virtue to stand against those things, high enough virtue to fight those things. Like it's a lot more convenient to just abandon those virtues and to not personally consent to adopting those values. It's a lot more convenient not to have a high standard of value within your own mind and life, especially when life can get difficult for some people. Life can get difficult for yourself, and all you can think about is making it to the next month, surviving. And some bad things can happen to us. Some bad things can bring us down, help us develop a very negative perspective of the world, and ultimately leads us towards caring a lot less about other people, about ourselves, about our values, about our virtues. And because we're in the survival mode, we just feel like it's just so easy to abandon the need to hold on to idealistic virtues. And if we lived in a society and civilization and culture that placed a prioritization on virtues and values, we would live in a lot more safer, cleaner, healthier, and less divisive world. But, money and the convenience of abandoning virtue for the sake of money, it just breeds corruption. So ultimately, the whole reason I made this video was because the world can throw you curveballs, life can throw you curveballs, but you should never let that be a reason to abandon your own sense of integrity, your own virtues and principles. And we should work on our own moral standards, our own value standards, our own principles, our own virtues. Because if I'm speaking from experience, I've been hit down to smithereens. I've had bad shit happen to me. I've been in a position where I've just not given a shit about anyone because I'm just so concerned about surviving in my own life, maintaining my own well-being. And you just have a lot more energy and focus and time to focus on high values and virtues, on, for instance, if you're so fixated and you're in a mode of survival and you need to ensure that you need to look after yourself first, you're going to be a lot less preoccupied on focusing on other people, focusing on helping or looking after other people, which is understandable because you're in a state of survival and you're trying to get out of that position so that you're not stuck in this constant fear, anxious, anxiety-ridden paranoia state that's just causing you to be nowhere mentally capable of being able to hold on to high-level values and virtues. And so that's the positive side of this conversation and story. It's good to be aware of the corruption. A lot of the time you won't notice it unless you actually start digging. And that's the thing about corruption. Corruption likes to stay hidden. Corruption likes to maintain a certain aura of secrecy and a low visibility. But if you start digging and you start looking enough, you'll find it. But I'm not asking you to go look for corruption, because at the end of the day, I'm not advocating people becoming hyper-fixated on the bullshit state of the world, although it's good to be aware of, as I said, but it's also good to really be able to focus on the good that's in your life, the good that can come out of your life, and the stuff that's here to be appreciated. Because at the end of the day, we're here, we're temporary, our time here is temporary. It's temporary. And you don't want to burden yourself with such heavy thinking for years and years. You want to be able to lighten up and enjoy your life and enjoy life in general. And I'm speaking from experience because I was so hyper fixated on corruption, solving certain issues, and putting myself on the line. And as I grew older, I was like, yo, I also need to be cognizant of the fact that I need to be able to enjoy life and not be so hyper fixated on excuse my language, bullshit. That's just causing me to develop a negative, pessimistic perspective of the world, myself, and other people. It's just not a good mental state to be in. You're a temporary being. You have for a short amount of time. While you're here, you might as well figure out how as positive and optimistic as possible. And some nihilists may begin to argue with me, and some determinists and materialists may definitely begin to argue with me because they see the pursuit of one's own personal development is futile because of the temporary nature of our own lives, and may then advocate for a far more pessimistic perspective of the world, and not see the value in maintaining a sense of positivity, motivation, inspiration, aspiration. And you know, but it's like, yo, you don't want to live your life in a negative state, in a negative perspective. It's the only one that's negatively affecting is you. Doesn't matter how fancy your perspective is, doesn't matter how fancy your perception is. At the end of the day, you need to be bright eyed and bushy tailed in order to keep springing up every day, moving through life with a sense of vitality. Because the moment you start giving up and buying into the doomsdaying nature of the world, you're forfeiting your own sense of vitality within your mental health and your physical health. So it's not worth it to be so hyper fixated on all the negative crap in the world. It's up to us to figure out how to stay positive, how to focus on good things, how to fill our minds with happy things, how to enjoy our life as much as possible. No matter where you are in life, no matter where you are in the world, you can still figure out how to enjoy each passing moment, how to wake up and be so freaking happy that you're alive, that you're free, that you have food. And there's really amazing ways to feel happiness by realizing all of this stuff. And I love those moments in life where I'm just like in the garden or something, or just, you know, some random place. And I just think to myself, wow, I'm so happy. I'm optimistic. I'm futuristic. I have a good outlook and I feel happy with where my life is now. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm content. I'm happy. And it's not where where I want to be in the future, but it is where I am now. And I might as well enjoy it. I might as well figure out a way to enjoy it. Because if you're just buying into negative nonsense constantly, you're doing yourself no favors. You're just eliminating your own energy, your own vitality, your own happiness. And so we are responsible for our own happiness in that way. And I've said that before. We are responsible for our own happiness. We are responsible for the positivity we're able to fill into our own mind. And in a sense, responsible for the positivity we're able to dispose into the world, share amongst others. And it comes back to the title of this world. It's like, don't let a corrupt world corrupt you. Like, if you're negative and pessimistic, you are corrupted. The computer program is virus. The matrix virus has you. It has you. And you need to get that happiness antivirus working and debug your system so that you cannot let all of this stuff give you reasons of doubt, of fear, of insecurity, of paranoia, getting in the way of you being happy in each passing moment. The moment you're not happy is the moment the system has you. The system of thought, the system of governance, the system of ideology, the system of bureaucracy. It has you under its grip, within its grasp. It has you. And yeah, this is what I got to tell myself every day. And I said this before. But when I say stuff like this in videos, it's like I'm basically telling myself this stuff. I started very negative and focusing on all this negative stuff. It's government bureaucracy, corruption. You start feeling down because of it. And then you start realizing, nah, man, it's not the way it's supposed to be. I need to pump myself up. I need to spread some motivation, spread some inspiration, spread some virtue, spread some values, spread some principality. And as you spread it, you spread it into yourself when you spread it to others. So it's good to be positive. It's good to be optimistic. It's good to share that infectious optimism. Some people don't have it. And when you share it with others, you reinforce it within yourself. And I guess that's what I do. Because it reminds me, at least in this moment, life's pretty long, but it's also pretty short. And this moment, a couple years later, will probably be forgotten. But hopefully the virtues stick around, the repetition of this evaluation of value is reinforced and affirmed within me, so that a couple years later I may not remember this conversation, but the values discussed in it have become more of a second nature, more automatic, more ingrained, more entrained. So yeah, it's crazy. The year's going to continue. Life's going to continue. We're going to see more crazy news stories. Who the hell knows what's actually going to happen? I have no idea. The best I can do is just prepare myself for my own future within this future world that's currently unfolding. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to be the next point of interest, the next point of contention. I don't know what world events and news stories are going to unfold. I don't know how that's going to impact the world in so many ways. And I kind of just have to not worry about that and just carve my own way, become my own pioneer of my own life. And that's the strangeness of life, We live in this world that's changing everywhere in so many ways. I mean, from an ideological, cultural, and event-based perspective, it's changing every day. Events change, people change, people's perspectives, their aesthetics, their nuances change, their priorities change, their beliefs change. And we're all changing together, and the way the world changes affects how we change, and the way we change affects how the world changes. It's just how it is. So what are we at, an hour now in this video? I've got one glorious viewer right now. I'm not interesting enough in order to keep people here for long enough, and that's totally understandable. It's very difficult and hard to be continually attempting to continually be interesting enough in order to gain people's attention. But I can't. I gotta work with what I got. But I'm very grateful for producing this application, because I'm not in the business of retaining people's attention towards my personal perspectives and ideology. It's a really difficult game to have, especially since my YouTube channel got wiped out. This is where I'm at, but I have a small channel now, and Nick Snell says, oh, thanks, Nix, and I appreciate that. I love listening to you, Jesse, and I'm very thankful for your energy. And I really do appreciate that. As I say, look, it's kind of my responsibility I'm responsible for my own happiness, and I'm responsible for the happiness and optimism and positivity I can share. Those are the two things we're responsible for. I'm not responsible for how people feel, unless I've caused them to feel that way. But I am at least responsible for how I feel and what I share, because of how I feel and how that can make other people feel. And that's what we do have control of. We have control over what we pour into ourselves and what we share with others. And it better be positive, because our life is temporary. Like, everyone's fucking going crazy about homosexuality, racism, war, money, status, quos. I'm better than you. We're right, you're wrong. It's like, yo, guys, chill out. You're all gonna die one day. And you're taking this life and these elements within life far too seriously. You need to chill out and you need to figure out how to enjoy your life. And I'm telling you now, being divisive, being racist, being gayist, or whatever the case is, and being prone to violence and war is not going to maximize the amount of happiness you can experience within this life. Anyone that contributes towards any hatred or division cannot truly say that they are happy. They can't, because they're just selling out to division. They're just selling out to corruption under the guise of happiness, fooling themselves that they're happy. They're not happy. Anyone that contributes or supports anything like that, which is ultimately corruption, any violence, any hatred, is corrupt. It's corruption. And anyone who shares it within policies, within beliefs, within ideas, they can't say that they're happy, man. And I don't want to persecute those people. I'd actually just rather like to pray for them and hope for the best, that they're able to one day see the light and start focusing on stuff that feels good, instead of stuff that feels bad. I don't see how being racist can make you feel good. I don't see how promoting war and violence can make you feel good. I just don't see that. But some people are so oblivious towards their own level of corruption, they don't even care as long as they've got money and they're satiating their pleasure-based senses with whatever experiences they can in order to block out all of the corrupt nonsense they get up to. And that's not only politics, that's all aspects of life, that's all aspects of people. But I don't want to paint every human on earth with this brush, because there are a lot of good people out there which are happy, kind-hearted and loving people, and they're doing their best. I was watching some videos where people were speaking about how meaningless life is, and these are like kids. I'll actually show you here, right? I found this quite interesting, also especially since it happened after 2020. Let me just check on YouTube here. Bring this up on the screen. Share screen. There we go. YouTube. And I was just listening to some of the stuff, and I was contemplating sharing it on Patreon, but I wasn't really sure how people would interpret it. But sometimes, I think to myself, life is sad, And I'm on two ends of the spectrum, because sometimes like life is sad, and other times they're like, well, if I have that perspective, it's up to me to change that perspective. I need to be able to find happiness within life, even if I'm viewing life as being sad sometimes. Because I think to myself, so what I've been noticing is a lot of these like younger people have been sharing some very sincere videos of their own personal troubles, their own personal perspectives of life. Like being alone may be the solution, a video to watch when you're sad, my life as a loser. But this guy, Life Rats, just listening to people pour out their emotions, pour out their soul. These are people who are really honest people, who are brave and courageous enough to share these stories. But what I found particularly interesting was listening to people's perspectives of, this guy's video, I may just share that. He's just pouring out his emotions. But I was listening to this, and it's going to sound a bit emo and a bit depro, but sometimes it's like to hear people out, It's like, I've noticed a lot of these videos, I see life as meaningless from these younger people. Life is BS rants. And sometimes it's good to hear these things, hear these perspectives of people. Life is meaningless. And like some of the arguments these people were saying is like, when we're born, and then one day, and then we have to work and stay alive and earn money, and then one day we die and you can't take any of these things with us. And then some people throw some positive spins in it, like life is meaningless, set yourself free. But I don't truly believe life is meaningless. I believe meaning exists when you create it. when you create meaning, when you find a reason to believe in meaning and purpose, it will be there. But some people obviously contemplate the reality of life, the reality of our mortality, the reality of death, and they lead towards these perspectives and believing that life is ultimately meaningless. Like this guy says, life is meaningless, and what is in a relationship? And it's people out there feel this way, and I really reach out to them, which is why I'm working on the social media app, and hopefully can gain enough influence to share positive ideas to help bring people out of these really depressing states. But I've noticed that in recent times people have been saying this life is meaningless. There's actually videos of it, and look, some of them I wouldn't watch this forever. Life is not only pointless but also boring. Am I a nihilist? Life is meaningless. And as I've said, I don't really completely agree that life is meaningless. I believe whatever meaning you're prepared to find and focus on will be there. But it is still really interesting to listen to these people's perspectives, where it kind of gets it out of their system, gets it out of your system. Where, some people go through stuff. It's just really interesting to hear them pour out their soul, I listened to this video today, life is pointless. And at the time when I was watching it, I kind of felt that way. But I guess accepting the grim reality of reality itself helps us overcome it. And then seeing the meaningless of life can lead to us deciding to create or focus on meaning within our life. Life becomes empty and meaningless the more you know. Yeah, but the conversation doesn't end there, because you can increase your knowledge to be able to not feel empty and to be able to find meaning, value, and purpose. But I believe some people are just stuck in certain positions where they can't really find another perspective or another perception to adopt. And my heart goes out towards these people, because a lot of people feel like this. These people are just a few brave people that have gone ahead and expressed how they feel about life. They've taken time to think about the system, about the nature of life and death. And yeah, I wouldn't suggest watching that for too long, to be totally honest with you, because you got to keep your spirits up. And as meaningless as life may seem sometimes, as I've explained to you, the only meaning you will have in your life is the meaning you look for, you find, you value, you adopt, and you hold on to or create. So if life feels meaningless, then create meaning, find purpose. There's no hard-boiled answer towards what is meaning, towards what is purpose. It's really subjective, and it's really up to you. But as you can see, 11 months, 1 year, seems to become somewhat of a trend where people are realizing the futility of life, the negative perspective from that angle. And I've taken time to share that. And I've been there. I felt like this. I felt like life was a scary, horrible, pointless mess. But I would just like to, and if I could speak to myself from the past or any of these people, I'd like to say it's only temporary, and it's truly dependent upon your ability to climb your way out of it. These people are feeling down, they're feeling life is pointless, life is meaningless. But that's temporary, that's a temporary perspective. It's life changes, life can change for the better. You can find meaning, you can find purpose, and you kind of have to do that. You can't just settle on, life is just so hard and tough and terrible and meaningless. Like, that's just going to eat away at your own vitality. It's going to eat away at your own energy. It's going to eat away at your own happiness. And while you're alive, you need your vitality, you need your energy, you need your happiness. You can't afford to get sucked into these nihilist perspectives. But at the end of the day, I'm not judging anyone that has a nihilist perspective, because I've been there. I understand it. But I also understand that it can be very much temporary. your life can be super. But some of the things these guys have to say, because like, let's listen to this guy, for instance. I don't know if you can actually listen to him. Like, they speak about work and money and stuff, and I guess that can help you shift your focus on where to find meaning. I heard some guys speaking about getting a dream job. Like, what job is a dream? you know I, but it's all about perspective. I can't just stop at any perspective, especially a negative perspective, because when you do that, uh, you begin to start dying, guys. When you're when you can't find the light in the world, and you're only finding darkness in the world, your soul begins to slowly start dying. Not that your soul can die, but you know what I mean. Like, your sense of the world, your sense of reality begins to start dying. So I've been there. I've been in those dark spots where I've seen things are so meaningless, struggling to find meaning or hope for a future, hope for of experiencing as much amazing memories as I can while I'm still alive. I was scared by the reality of mortality, losing your parents, losing your family. And I was just really hopeless, to be completely honest with you. And I just couldn't see a light, couldn't see hope. And but I said to myself, what I just said to you is that you can't stop at such a negative, meaningless perspective of reality, because it will stop and halt your life. It will stop and halt you. It will slow you down. If you become hopeless and apathetic, you will not become proactive. Actively take steps towards happiness. Actively take steps towards your dreams, towards making happy memories in whatever way you can. You'll just become apathetic towards everything, and you'll see no hope in anything. But as someone that, as much as my hope died, I still held on to glimmers of hope that had just resurfaced, fortunately enough. And I have these conversations to remind myself of the importance of maintaining a positive perspective and attitude. Because you wonder to yourself, like, what is I used to believe in manifestation, all of that sort of stuff, but I stopped believing in it. Kinda, not really though. But I just looked at it from a more realistic perspective, and I was like, listen, if you are more positive and optimistic, your life's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be way easier. So immediately you're manifesting an easier life. Energy that provides you mentally, just from the apathy that reduces within your own psychology. You're manifesting vitality within which it is you're perceiving your world and your potential future. If you see no hope, if you see no future, you'll be apathetic. You'll take anywhere in the direction that you desire to go in. So, if I ever get down, I just remind myself, like, good and all to be down and stuff, but it doesn't help for this to be a permanent mindset, because at the end of the day, if in order for me to do what I want to do and get done what I want to get done, I have to be in a positive state of mind. I have to have high energy. I have to see hope in what I'm doing, hope in what I'm trying to achieve. So I've been there, and people that are there, I don't judge them for being there. I don't judge them for being nihilist. I don't judge them for negative, meaningless perspectives of their life in the world. My heart for them to at least know that it's okay, and it only exists for as long as you feed into it. As I explained, the number one thing is that we are responsible for how we feel. Another thing I've been facing is paranoia. Just, like, you get hope, and this is one thing I noticed. I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but you get hope and you see the reality of a positive, successful future. But then your negative mind comes in and just starts getting paranoid about things that can go wrong and that prevent you from reaching certain goals. And my mind seems to have the habit of that, so I had to fight my way out of that habit of always like imagining such a beautiful future, and immediately this negative paranoid aspect of my mind comes into play, and then imagines how that beautiful future is just interrupted suddenly. And then you can get paranoid of bad stuff happening or anxious about bad stuff happening. And what I've started to realize is like, you just have to tell yourself, like, I cannot be paranoid. I cannot afford to be paranoid. I cannot afford to be anxious. I cannot afford to have a negative and pessimistic view of my future. I can't afford to have it. It doesn't contribute anything towards me. It just takes away from me. It takes away from every present moment, that it stops me from just being simply happy for where I'm at, as mediocre as my life may seem many times. But that doesn't prevent me from being able to be happy in each passing moment. To be like, holy shit, I'm alive. I'm free. I'm alive. I'm okay. Everything's okay. Wow. Why don't I just enjoy this? Why don't I just give myself permission right now to enjoy this for what it is, instead of finding some reason to believe that something's going to go wrong? That, it's so funny how we work. It's like we're worried about something going wrong in the future, which is preventing us in the present from enjoying our moments right now as they are. It's like some future thing that may or may not happen is now preventing you from enjoying your freedom, enjoying your life right now. Enjoy it. Uh, your life doesn't have to be so damn glamorous in order for you to have permission to just enjoy being alive. Whether you're watching a movie, whether you're spending time with friends or family, whether you're just alone and just listening to music and in your own space, you you have a reason to feel happy, and you deserve to feel happy. Like, that's also the biggest thing. I think us as humans, we don't feel we deserve to feel happy. And so when we try and imagine ourselves as being happy, we don't really imagine ourselves as being deserving of that happiness. And that's such a crazy, messed up parapsychological thing to point out. But it's something I've noticed. It sits in the back of your mind. It's not really that noticeable. But it's like, the question is, do I really deserve to be happy? Do I really feel as though I deserve to be happy? That I deserve to enjoy the rest of my life as much as possible? That I deserve good things to happen to me? Do I really feel that way? You know? And and sometimes you just don't feel that way. And you don't even notice that you don't feel that way. But that's simply not true. Of course you deserve to be happy. Why the hell don't you deserve to be happy? Why the heck don't you deserve to enjoy your life as much as possible? Of course you do. You absolutely do. And it feels really good to say that. It kind of feels like on some deep psychological level, I'm healing something within myself, when I say that. When I realize that, I feel like this load lifted off of my body when I realize, like, that I actually deserve to feel happy and enjoy my life as much as possible. So why must I entertain these imaginative ideas that something's gonna go wrong? Like, why don't I just be positive, optimistic? And it was amazing because last year I was down in the dumps, and one of my brother's friends at his birthday party, I was expressing quite a nihilist perspective of the world, and this guy just reminded me of how I used to be when I was younger. And he just said, I've got this rule where I just be as optimistic and positive about everything and anything. And I don't have any reason to do that other than it just feels good and things get better because of that. And so I started, well, I didn't really say that part, but I remembered myself how happy and optimistic I used to be when I was younger. And I was like, fuck, dude, like, this guy's right. Like, because the more analytical you become, the more materialistic you become. Not materialistic, but reductionist. Or when I say materialistic, I mean like, oh, I have a physical body and I live so many years, and we live in a pool of variables, and at any point in time something can go wrong, and I cannot actually assure myself that everything will be okay all of the time. That's what I mean when I say materialist perspective. And it's like, yeah, but why? Why don't I just give myself a reason to just be optimistic about everything? And that's basically what the guy was saying to me. He was basically just explaining to me. His name was Avatar, by the way. He's an Indian guy. And his name was Avatar. Was it Avatar? Yeah, it was Avatar. Quite a cool name. And he just basically said that, I'm positive for no other reason than that. I'm optimistic for no other reason than that. And our brain likes to argue with the simplicity of such an amazing idea like that. But it's like, why not? Why not just be optimistic about fucking everything? And I started doing it again, and my life started getting better. It really started getting better, and it helps me when I start getting paranoid or anxious about something, just to remind myself to do that. And then it gets rid of the anxiety and paranoia. And it's like, fuck, man. Why do I have to believe in such negative stuff happening to me? I'm just going to believe in the best thing, and I'm going to take the steps towards achieving all of that. I'm not going to become apathetic, because when you have no hope and you don't believe things can happen for you, you've just become apathetic. You don't even try. You don't even become proactive. You start procrastinating. You just, and then you just start feeding yourself with mindless entertainment and whatever pleasurable activities you can. That ultimately becomes quite meaningless, to be honest with you. Um, and it's like, you know what? I like to find the meaning and the value in my own life, the meaning and the value in the world, the meaning and value in stuff I can create and contribute, whether it's ideas, products, or platforms, or new ways of doing things. Like, that's how I like to be. But sometimes to maintain that sort of energy, it takes work. It takes constant upkeep, I guess. I don't want to make it seem like a chore, because it just really comes down to what you're allowing into your mind and what you're not allowing into your mind. And if any negative nonsense comes into your mind, block it out, man. Just get rid of it and just be like, yeah, I'm not entertaining this. I'm just rather going to go along with the whole positivity thing, the whole thing. And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's just, that's the last video I made was, are you a glass half full or guy? You know, uh, is your glass half full or is it half empty? How are you seeing life? Are you seeing, it's, and I was wondering, what does it actually mean? Glass half full, glass half empty. And I was realizing, like, it's just perspective. Am I going to see the glass as half full and enjoy the water I have left, or am I going to see it as half empty and worry about the water I have left? Am I going to enjoy the water I have, or am I going to worry about the water I don't have? You know, are you half empty or half full? And so the glass half full, that level of water exists for those two different perspectives. Either worrying about having water once you finish the rest of that glass, or you're just gonna be grateful for the water, the half of a glass of water you have, and enjoy that water as much as possible. So it's crazy to break it down like that, and to realize it's that simple, that how we can change our perspective of seeing the glass half empty or glass half full. We're either going to worry about what we don't have and what we have left, or we're going to enjoy what we have and what we have left and be grateful for it. It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. And your perspective is determining the energy you're feeding into your mind, your body, and your spirit. And that energy is going to determine whether you take steps, risks, adventures towards creating what you want to create, whether it's meaning, value, and purpose, or reaching out for your dreams or aspirations in any way, shape, or form. But if the glass is half empty and you're too worried about the water in order to dream, too worried about the water in order to go on a journey and find a stream that can help you fill up the glass again, it gets in the way. Our own imagination haunts us, can haunt us, or it can inspire us and make us happy. Your imagination can make you sad or make you happy, man. The question is, what are you imagining? What are you imagining? What's going through your head every day? We spend every day thinking so many thoughts. What's going through your mind? What's going through your head? Are you focused on what you don't have, or are you focused on worrying about what you don't have, or are you focused on being grateful for what you do have? It's fine of mentality and developing a healthy psychological composition. It's an incredibly fine line. And that's why I say you are responsible for your own happiness, man. You're responsible for your own mind, responsible for your own positivity, responsible for your own optimism. And you might as well be optimistic and positive, because if you do the latter, you're just screwing yourself over and draining your vitality with the life you have left here on earth. And it's like, nah, man, listen, I need to enjoy life as much as possible while I'm here on earth. So I'm not gonna entertain this negative, anxiety, paranoia-ridden bullshit. I'm gonna find a way to dream, to reach out for those dreams, to keep that energy, to keep that steam, and to keep reaching, keep striving, keep sharing, keep smiling. Why not? I have to. I don't have a choice. It's a means of survival. Your psychological state is your survival state. Your psychological state determines your ability to turn survival into thriving. Your psychological state's going to convince you that you're either in a state of survival or you're in a state of abundance. So having a healthy psychology is a means of survival. It's a means of success. It's a means of healthy, proactive thinking. Because look at it like this: like, if you're just so pessimistic and negative about everything all the time, you're going to be far worse at coming up with new creative ideas for your life, for what to do, for how to solve problems, or how to solve issues, because you're going to be so fixated on needing to survive that your mind will not be able to operate in that capacity. So by focusing on needing to survive, you're limiting your ability to thrive. That's what you're doing. But it's not so easy, because some people, or you, may go through really tough circumstances in your life that just turn you off of all this positive, happy, clappy bullshit, which is not bullshit. It's real. It's very. If you don't have it, you lose steam, you lose hope, you lose everything. You lose imagination, you lose opportunity. That's what you do. You don't even see the opportunities in front of you. You overlook them. So it's not just some happy clappy bullshit. It's real stuff that's real important for your real life and the time you have left here on earth. And might as well make the most of it, eh? I might as well be happy about it. Like, hey, sometimes when I was down in the dumps, thinking about the inevitability of death and hoping that I continue to live after leaving my mortal body, that got me down. A lot of people, because they don't believe in life after death, they see life as meaningless. But that's not necessary, which I kind of understand to a certain degree, because it's like, okay, I can go ahead and believe that because I only live as a temporary being and not an eternal one, then this little time I have here is ultimately so futile and meaningless. So on the one hand, I understand that argument. I do. On the other hand, if that is true, which I don't want to believe it is, I'll be very honest with you, I don't want to believe that we're temporary, finite beings. I'd rather believe we're eternal beings. But if that is true, struggling with the concept of meaning within a temporary existence, I thought to myself, yeah, well, you can still be, you still got to be happy, and you're still going to be positive. You still got to make the most of the life you have left. Because if you don't, you're just living a fucking horrible life while you're alive, down in the dumps constantly. And it's like, even if you are temporary and finite, like it's your job to still be happy about the life you have left. So that's the one perspective I've somewhat adopted, but I do not wish to believe in. I rather wish to believe that we are eternal, that everything we do echoes within the realm of eternity, and therefore life inherently has more meaning and value. But someone said to me, it's like, well, even if it is temporary, maybe that's what makes it so special and more meaningful and more purposeful. And I also agree with that side of the argument as well, or the perspective. So those are the two sides of the same coin. The one hand, I was like, well, if I'm a temporary being and I only exist in a little glimpse of the eternal reality, which is reality itself, uh, it kind of takes the joy out of things. It kind of takes the inherent innate meaning out of life. And but then you flip it on its head, and it's like, well, maybe it makes it more meaningful while you're still alive. You have the ability to find meaning, to find purpose while you still exist. But to be honest with you, I find it very hard to imagine not existing. I don't see how life can create existence, then that existence ceases to exist. It creates consciousness, then that consciousness ceases to exist. That's such a redundant idea and concept for me. It's asinine. It's circular reasoning. It leads nowhere. It's hard to imagine stopping to exist one day. It's really difficult to imagine that. But I don't have proof of being on the other side. Some people do. They have near-death experiences. They come back. They see things. But I would like to believe and choose to believe that life continues even after death. And we continue to exist, and will be more meaning to be found. But even if that isn't the case, that doesn't mean meaning doesn't exist. It doesn't mean, even though the meaning may be temporary or finite or limited within a potentially vast and infinite universe, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, even for that small amount of time on Earth. It still does. Like every moment, there's meaning or value to be found, even with that perspective and ideology. So those are the sort of, I had an existential crisis of fearing ceasing to exist and the value that would be limited in my reality because of that reality itself. And it really messed over my head for a bit of time, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it and coming to terms with it, and ultimately having to overcome it in order to get back to this more positive, happier disposition that I'm currently experiencing right now, which is a constant process of gardening your internal state and upkeep. I don't want to make it sound like a laborious chore, but it's not really a chore, because every day you exist, every day you wake up, every day you think about stuff. It's inevitable, it's natural. It's going to happen one way or another, whether you think it's a chore or it isn't. You're going to constantly keep thinking whether it feels like a chore or it doesn't. So therefore, it's less of a chore, because it's just our natural function. It's our natural experience of reality and existence. So, just shifting that to positive mentality is not really a chore. It's just a behavioral pattern, I suppose, that gets adopted and prioritized in order to lift yourself up out of certain psychological and emotional dispositions. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm very grateful I actually managed to make a video, because I've been pretty quiet on Patreon. Because sometimes I only want to share stuff that I really feel is worth sharing. I don't want to just share anything on Patreon, whether it's videos on YouTube that I find or my own live video. Like, I have to be in a certain state of mind, and sometimes I'm just not feeling it. Sometimes I'm just dealing with stuff in my head or whatever, and I'm just not feeling it. So I'm quieter then. But I try not to be, and I have to make sure that I actually reach out and communicate and upload stuff, which I do. But it's just better to be in a better state to be able to talk about stuff. You got to think about it. Like, I've made so many live videos, to constantly be able to talk like this for hours on end, thankfully, is sort of a gift I have, but sometimes it doesn't really feel like a gift, because I feel like I have nothing to speak about, and I feel like I've just exhausted every conversational viewpoint, and my own energy, and being limited or thwarted by my own apathy and procrastination. But somehow I wait for myself to feel better, and somehow I've got stuff to speak about magically, miraculously. And I just want to say it's been a miracle that I'm still alive, that I'm still supported by people on Patreon like yourself, Nick. And I really do appreciate that. It's a miracle I'm actually able to sit here and code an application every day. It's just a miracle, man. And I'm so grateful for it. I can't explain how grateful for it, but it's just a miracle. I went through a lot of stuff. I broke down. My mind broke. It's the fact that I'm still here, still being able to do stuff is really a miracle. And I'm really, really grateful to that support that's been able to help me continue to keep going, and finally get myself to a state where it's like, sweet, it's not just small stuff anymore. I'm doing big stuff again. But it's, when you fall off the horse and you hit your head and you have to rehabilitate yourself, and your soul gets crushed and your body gets crushed, and 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 you face death, and you're resuscitated. Not that I died, I'm just being metaphorical here, but and you're the phoenix that comes out of the fire, and you got to go through that healing phase, that rehabilitation phase, and you got to get yourself out of the dumps, out of the brokenness. It's a process, and then when you're on the other side of it, it's quite a good space to be, because it reminds you that if stuff like that's temporary, it's not eternal, it's not forever. It's temporary, and we can dwell in it, or we can move forward and take what we've learned from it in order to help us better proceed forward. So I felt broken. I never thought I never thought that would happen. I never thought I'd be so broken in life, but it happened. The good thing about stuff like that is you come out of it stronger, especially when you overcome it. When you overcome being broken, you naturally come out stronger. You naturally come out on top. Sorry, I'm back. So that's my message. Thank you so much, Nick Snell, for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support on Patreon. And I'm sending lots of love, and I'll see you next week. And hopefully I can find some good other stuff to post on Patreon. Thank you very much, and God bless. See you soon. Amen.